and welcome to Trucking Along with Kiersey. That's me, your positive voice in trucking. And today we're going to talk about weekend and night dispatch. These guys get a really bad reputation, and sometimes I feel bad for them. A lot of times at my company, they're new, and we have to have a little bit of patience with them. So stick around. I'm going to tell you a couple funny stories, I think, about things that have happened to me with night dispatch and weekend dispatch. And maybe you'll laugh, maybe you'll learn something, I don't know. Be right back. I had been driving about 5 months solo when I was coming across I-64, which is a mountain region in Kentucky, and I was just going at like 58 miles per hour, and it wasn't foggy, it was a clear night, and this guy comes along and makes a right-hand turn into my trailer, and I saw him spin around and hit the concrete barrier, and then he went the wrong direction, and I was like, oh my god, what happened? And I pulled over and I called 911, and you know, I looked out my window and I didn't see him, but everything was so dark and I didn't know what to do, so I called. Well, it's not that I didn't know what to do, I was just like frazzled. I never had an accident before, a moving violation. My cars were always like hit while they were parked, and the only accident I had in the truck, I knocked the tandem axle off, but you know, I didn't hit anybody. So you know, this was kind of a scary feeling, not knowing what kind of damage could have happened to this person or were they hurt. So I call up night dispatch, and this guy was fairly new. I think he'd been on for a couple months now. He answers, and I was like, I just had an accident. Oh my god, I'm on the side of the road. I know I'm in Kentucky, I'm on I-64. I don't even know what mile marker this is. He just hit my trailer, and he spun around and hit the concrete barrier, and now he's gone. I can't find him. And he's like, ma'am, please calm down. This guy's name's August, and he is so stoic and professional that it took me like a whole year to get this guy to laugh, right? But I love him, he's great. And he's like, okay, please, now tell me what happened. Tell me what happened. And I was like, well, you know, he just hit me and left. And then as I was on the phone with him, this guy gets out of a car, and he pulls up in front of me and he starts saying, what happened? How the hell did that happen? And I was like, oh, I think this is the guy that hit me. And then all of a sudden it turned out that no, it wasn't. It was a witness. And the guy's like, we saw him hit you. And they were on the phone with 911 already. And my dispatcher was like, well, I'm on the phone with 911 also. You know, they're on their way, blah, blah, blah. So, as you know, after the police and everything were done with their report, and the cops went around my whole truck and the trailer and everything to make sure everything was okay, and they came on my truck, played with my cat, and sat there, and they said to me they wanted to make sure that I was safe to drive, that they can understand that would be upsetting, but because of the witness statements, they just assumed the guy was a drunk driver, and he fled. He went the opposite way on the interstate and then got off at the last exit. So, totally not my fault. Absolutely have witnesses. And, you know, my night dispatcher, when I sent him the message saying, okay, the cops just left, I'm gonna get rolling, he immediately called me up to actually make sure that I was okay. You know, and he was like, well, do you need to go park? Are you upset? What do you know, can you drive? If you can't drive, I can send a team to come get you, and one of them can drive your truck back. And, you know, and I was like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. This was not my fault, and whoever it was, he's not dead because he drove away. So, you know, I'm fine. And, you know, people look at night and weekend dispatch almost like substitute teachers, where it's like, oh, but at the same time, you can get away with more too. It's easier to message them and say, oh, I feel like taking an extra day off, or hey, I'm dropping this load and you're gonna have to go replace it. And this one guy, Dan, at night, he's awesome. I love him. He came on my fleet and he was here for like a year, and one of the first conversations I had with him, I had been driving for 2 years. It wasn't a matter of I didn't have the skills to get in the door this customer. It was a matter of I drove 580 miles to get to this customer in one drive shift, and I was told they had overnight parking, and when I get there were 60 trucks waiting for doors, which meant that we didn't have room to back into the doors, and they kept waking everybody up and telling people to move around in a big loop just to be able to pull in and pull out. So I was trying to back in this door, and the guy that was parked across from me was not answering his door. So I don't know if he was in the restroom or wherever he was, but I was so frustrated that I called up dispatch and I said, look, Dan, you're the only one that's answering the phone right now, so you're getting this. I need to vent because this is bull, okay? And so I was upset. And he was okay with that, but he was like, ma'am, I need you to calm down. Is there any way you can leave the property and take a few minutes and come back in 20 minutes? No, how am I going to do that? I got to back into the door. If I don't get the door when they tell me to, they'll take the door away from me and give it to somebody else. And I've already been waiting here for 5 hours for a door. And, he's like, okay. He's like, I'm going to stay on the phone with you. And I said, okay, I am going to drive out. So I did. I drove off the property and I did a couple quick breaths, and then I came back and I got it in the door, and the guy's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. So after I got loaded, okay, like a few hours later at Prime, we have to call up to verify all the information on our bills. And I called up and I got all professional again. This is truck number 651153 for a live load call. And Dan's like, you sound a lot better. I was like, yeah, I'm better. But even then, I didn't sleep well that night because they kept knocking on our doors and telling us to move. So yes, it was a place that I wound up getting my 10-hour break and I got my hours back, but I wasn't really on break because I kept getting woken up. So I wound up messaging dispatch and telling them, I know it looks to you like I was on break, but I wasn't, so I'm going to drive this down the road a little bit, maybe 75 or 100 miles, and then I'm going to park. And I'll wake up when I'm ready to wake up. And they were like, 10-4, thanks, be safe, just tell us what your ETA is after you get rolling. And that was that. So people complaining, that was one of the reasons why I started this channel, is people want to complain about everything. And I'm sorry, I just don't have that same experience because I just don't. I think that you get back what you give. That same night guy, and when I would call up, I'd say, hey Dan, how's my buddy doing? And he'd say to me, oh, thank God it's you. And I went out on surgery and I was gone for, 7-8 weeks, something like that. And when I came back, I had a different truck. I had a different truck number. So I called him up and I was like, Buddy Dan. And he was like, hey, I've been wondering what happened to you. Where you been? I missed you. And I was, I told him about the surgery. So the next week, there was a day dispatcher that was covering my fleet manager on the weekends. His name's Gary. I love Gary. Gary's from New York, and Gary used to be a driver. So when you talk to Gary about issues that are going on out on the road, he really understands what you're talking about. He understands your frustration. And so when I wound up talking to Gary for the first time after my surgery, he's like, my best buddy, where have you been? It's like I missed my best friend. And Yeah, okay, maybe that's overplaying a little bit, but, you know, they can't go too familiar without being in a position where they could, you know, it's not like he's going to say, hey, girl, how you doing? Because, you know, then you get, oh, I'm suing you because you called me girl. I'm a woman. Ugh. Oh, my God. Gag me. Gag me with a spoon, totally, you know. But, so I love Gary. And in the past, Gary's called me up and asked me for favors and said, hey, look, I know you're training and you're supposed to not be running team yet, but, you know, could you do this load for me? I know you're supposed to be picking up a different load, but I really need help. And I've done it. But guess what? That goes the other way. When I said teamwork, I meant it. Last Christmas, I was given a load. I dropped off a student in Mississippi on December 21st. I wanted to be home December 23rd. The load that they gave me from Mississippi to New Jersey delivered 2 stops on December 24th. And I messaged Gary. I messaged Gary on the 22nd and said, look, I want to be home. It's Christmas. I want to be home Christmas Eve. I told them this a month ago, and, you know, there's a drop yard that's 20 miles from my house. I could go drop that the night of the 23rd, and then I can bobtail home from there. And that was on Saturday the 22nd, and he said, okay, I'll work on it tomorrow. Just remind me tomorrow. And then I did, and I gave him an ETA. I said, I'll be there at 2100 Sunday night, the 23rd. And he wound up telling me he had somebody to do the load, but he also asked me to stay there and wait for the guy to make sure that that guy showed up. You know, he did call me at one point and says, you're gonna drop this load no matter what I say, aren't you? I'm like, yeah, actually, yeah. He's like, okay. And he, you know, it all worked out. And I didn't pull this, oh, you're not gonna trick me into doing this load, and no, I'm not waiting there for that guy. Of course I waited there for the guy. Of course I did. And he did show up. But I wouldn't want to leave the load there and then have Gary have a problem. I mean, worst case scenario, I probably would have delivered the load the next day, at least the one stop. The other stop would have been an issue, but, you know, at least the morning stop, because that was pretty close to my area anyway. But I just don't have problems that people complain about. And I think it's because I've said this in several videos, the mega carrier video up above, just, you know, build a team and a relationship with people. That's really how this works, you know. And sometimes be funny. I was driving on this curvy, windy road that was like hills and one lane in each direction going through, you know, it was Yellowstone National Park area, and the snow was so high on the side of the road where they plowed that it covered the street signs. Like, I could see the top of the 5.5 for the speed limit, but that was it. Speed limit, line. You know, and that was scary. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning, and all of a sudden there's this big hairy brown thing in the middle of the road. I'm like, what the hell was that? So I messaged dispatch, and I'm like, woolly mammoth blocking road, please advise. I couldn't back up. There was no place to back up to. I couldn't go around it, and it was big. And he writes back, what are you talking about? I'm like, I don't know. It's big, it's brown, it's hairy. I'm from Jersey. We don't see things like this. Then I saw a bison crossing sign. I was like, man, buffalo, bison, I don't know the difference. I'm from Jersey. What the hell? You know, what do? Blow the horn? I don't think so. They told me don't be blowing that horn at moose because the moose will charge you. So how do I know if that thing's going to charge me? You know, I waited and crept along the road and waited for that sucker to move, and he was walking real slow, and I start driving real slow behind him, and I waited. And then, you know, that night I was on ice, I was fighting wind, and then I had to fight a bison, and I messaged in, I need to take an hour nap. I will tell you when I woke up. And the guy messaged and said, well, are you still good for your on-time pickup? And I ain't worried about that right now. I need sleep. And I did. I went to sleep, and then, you know, I messaged him when I woke up, and I said, okay, I'm rolling, and yeah, I'll be good for the on-time delivery. But, you know, even with night dispatch, they start to learn who you are, and they know if you're reliable. And weekend dispatch, they know who I am. I was teasing my fleet manager one time, and he kept typing in the wrong truck number into his computer while I was at his desk. And, you know, and I said to him, see, I knew I was just nothing but a number. It's all I am to you. And he just rolled his eyes at me. And Gary, the former driver, stood up and said, hi, Kiers, how you doing today? And I said, see, Gary knows who I am. But, you know, have a sense of humor, really. I mean, I know that not everybody's going to be able to be that way, or you can't always be that way with people. Like, not everybody's going to be receptive of being funny. You know, some of them are going to be really professional and brief, and, you know, but I think having a little bit of sense of humor makes life better. So, other things that dispatch has done, I mean, like I said, I really think that they get a bad reputation. They really do. And I talked in a couple other videos where I told them, no, I'm not taking that load. I'm not going over the Blizzard and Donner Pass. And, you know, the one guy, Cody, I called him Cody the Caller, because the first couple times that he met me, that he was on my fleet, he did call me. He called me more in one weekend than my fleet managers ever called me. But, you know, still, again, really nice guy. He just had to get to know me. And after that, he didn't have to call me anymore. But, you know, we get upset about things like that, and we don't understand the kind of situations that they have to deal with, and the drivers they have to deal with. I was in dispatch office one time, and there was this fleet manager who was on the phone with a driver, and yes, I was being nosy. And the guy says to him, he says to the driver, you've been late 4 times this month. I don't want to hear your excuses. Yesterday, I told you exactly what time you needed to leave and how you would have made that load today, but instead of leaving last night, you left out this morning, and now you're late and you want me to fix it. And, you know, this was a lease driver. And I know because I know who the fleet manager was. And in my company, it's a fleet manager for lease and a fleet manager for company drivers. So, you know, and he said to him, I don't know what more to do with you. I don't even want you on my fleet. I can't work with you anymore. I can't trust you. And that is like one of the worst things that a fleet manager would wind up saying to you. It's a really bad situation right there, because that means you're not going to get good loads. You're not going to get loads with short times on them. I know somebody, a company driver, that the fleet manager doesn't trust him to be on time. 4 times in 1 week, night dispatch had to repower this guy. In my company, it's repower. Some companies call it relay, some call it T-calls. But basically, another driver had to come and finish the load. They swapped loads. 4 times in 1 week. So the night dispatcher was being sincere and said, is this something that we need to talk about? Is this something you need help with? Do we need to work on your time management? And the driver got all offended. So after this, and I mean, I think the first 2 years, the guy was late like 12 times, and 6 times were within a ridiculously short time, like 3 months or 4 months or something. And He was late twice in 2 weeks. How he has a job, I don't know. So that just leaves me to believe that there are other people a lot worse than him. And, you know, I just don't know how dispatch deals with people like that, because I wouldn't have the patience. So I have to respect dispatch at all for being able to put up with people like that. That same guy, you know, he gets used by dispatch to do busy work. Like, if they don't have enough empty trailers in the terminal, they'll send him to all the different customers within a certain mile radius to have him bring back empty trailers to the terminal. If they don't have, like, say there was a recovery truck, there was an accident, say in California, they will pay him to go get a rental car and drive to California, pick up the truck, and bring the truck back to the terminal. He's done several of these types of recoveries and several things that he thinks are special assignments because he's such a good driver. And really what it is there's no time limit, there's no deadline for this kind of stuff, but it needs to get done. So they'd rather use him, you know, than use somebody like me that they know is going to get it in. And you don't ever want to be in that position where your fleet manager doesn't trust you or dispatch doesn't trust you. You want to be the person that when you walk into dispatch, they all say, "Hey, how you doing?" You want to be the person that when you call them up, they say, "Oh, I missed you." You know, that's who you want to be. So, again, this is a competition out here. And you're going to be competing with experienced drivers. And, you know, it is a certain part of growing pains that it's tough. This is a tough job to get adjusted to. It's a different lifestyle. Sometimes you have to wait in line for a shower. Like, whoever thought of that? You know, there's only 2 truck stops in the whole country I know of that have bathtubs. So you can't even take a bath. And that's one of the things, you miss the things out on the road that you used to be able to get. And maybe you didn't even care about them before. Maybe you were never a shopping type of mall person. But all of a sudden, now that you're on the road and you can't go to a shopping mall, that's what you want to do. You just want to walk through the mall and see people and you know, go to the food court. Or you just, maybe you never even liked Olive Garden before, but now because you can't have Olive Garden, you want it. So, you know, even just driving your car is different. This steering wheel is so big that when I got in my car, I felt like I was driving a little Tonka, you know, a Tonka truck or something, a little toy. And our mirrors, we have such mirrors here. We have no blind spots other than directly behind us if you use your mirrors properly. So I don't really feel like I can drive a car anymore. I sold my car. When I go home, I actually get out and look to park the car in the parking space, because in the truck I can see the lines with the mirror. When you're in the car, you can't see the lines unless you're really adjusting those mirrors, and it's a pain in the neck, and I can never tell how far I am up now, and it's just different. So this job changes you. It changes your perspective. It's gonna humble you. It really is. Like, but you can meet some wonderful people. You can work at a great company. You can have a great relationship with your dispatchers and your support team. And are there days that I get frustrated? Absolutely. Do I read the Qualcomm in the wrong way, that they didn't mean it because there's no inflection? Absolutely. If I'm having a bad day and they didn't put their name on that, I usually take that message the wrong way. Now, if they did put their name, then I would feel okay because I would know who it was, and I'd say, oh, he didn't mean it the way that I'm taking it. But there was one guy that he got me so mad that I told him, stay off my Qualcomm. You're creating a hostile work environment on my truck, and it's just me and my cat. So that's a real talent that you have there. Leave me alone. I have a nickname for him. I call him the micromanager. But guess what? He was only on my truck for 2 days that he was messaging me while my fleet manager was on vacation, and that was it. That was 3 years ago. Never heard from him again. So I'm fine with it. I've asked my fleet manager if they have a list of saying like this fleet manager doesn't want to talk to this truck, this one doesn't want to talk to her, and he swears that there's not. But you know, one guy described me as combative with a smile. I was like, yeah, darn right. Don't forget it, because I'm not gonna take crap, but you know, I'll do favors if I know I'm getting something in return. How about that? I'll work with you. But you know, there's a difference between abuse and you know, being asked to do a favor or that type of thing. And a lot of these people online really go overboard. Oh, can you believe he asked me to go deliver this local load? So he asked you to do a local load. My God, how much are you getting paid for that? $50 to go drop it in a door and then leave? Give me a break. You know, I was once paid $175 to go drop you know, do a load that was, it took me 2 hours. You know, I mean, I don't know what, people just want to complain about everything. If you do that, you'll be negative and you'll make yourself miserable out here. So I hope this gives you some food for thought, and it encourages you to have a little bit of compassion and a little bit more respect for weekend and nighttime dispatch. Some of those guys are really, really good. Some of them are really new. We expect people to deal with us and respect us and talk to us nicely. We expect people to, you know, smooth over, just gloss over our mistakes. So we need to do that with others. Thank you for watching today, and comment below with the name of your favorite dispatcher. It could be your fleet manager, night dispatcher, whatever, but you know, there's got to be somebody at your company that you really like, and you know, I think that would be kind of cool if any of them ever saw him. I told my fleet manager I'm doing these videos and I call him Greedy One Kenobi. He just laughed. He's like, no, you didn't do it. Yeah, I did, because you know that's what I call you. I'm gonna make like a little robed figure with a Yoda looking guy or something, and have him walk across my screen one of these days. But like, comment, subscribe, and share, and I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you out here trucking along. Bye.